This episode is brought to you by the Boneyard Huskies Club. The Boneyard Huskies Club empowers athletes while providing UConn fans with access to exclusive community, utility, and rewards. The Boneyard Huskies Club is excited to announce the next collection of student-athlete collectibles, which grant club membership privileges, will feature UConn men's basketball players and drop on January 9th, 2023. For more information, go to boneyardhuskiesclub.com. That's Huskies with a YZ at the end. boneyardhuskiesclub.com. Okay, Big East play is starting this weekend, and UConn's first test is going to come up against Butler. So joining me today, we've got Akeem Glaspie from the Indy Star here to help us break down Butler. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I know we were going back and forth before we recorded, and you were coming right from practice. I'll start there. Any interesting tidbits that came out of practice as we're heading into this matchup on Saturday night?
Well, I would say that they probably had the most participation at practice that they've had for a while. Butler's been notoriously injured throughout the season. So they had like Miles Wilmoth, one of their forwards that's been out for a while, and Akron transfer Ali was at practice. He suffered a concussion in the preseason, and he's been out. He had a mask, so he seems to be recovering, and I don't know if Ali is going to play, but just having them back on the court in practice was big for Butler. And just talked to Coach Matta today, and just kind of, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but they're definitely ready to go, and I know Hinkle's going to be rocking. So
absolutely. I think you'd expect Hinkle to be crazy come Saturday night here. As you look at this team, based on what you kind of thought of this team heading into the season, how would you say they performed so far, through their non-conference schedule? I know, they've had some good wins. They beat Kansas State, they beat BYU, they beat Cal, Yale. Some losses though to Penn State, Tennessee, and NC State. So just looking at this team, as a whole, what have been your thoughts on them so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I had much expectations just because there's a lot of new parts. Coach Mata's back in his first season, second stint as Butler head coach, but first season this year. A couple of key transfers, obviously in Manny Bates, the NC State transfer, and Eric Hunter Jr., a Purdue transfer. I mean, they're both starters, so that's kind of, you're adding a big influx of talent into the starting lineup. So you don't necessarily know how they're going to adapt right away, but I will say that both players have come in and contributed, very well, and kind of really integrated themselves very smoothly. Eric Hunter Jr., he played 4 years at Purdue. He's a really talented defender and shooter, and he's really, I talked to him today too. He's talked about how he's taken on a leadership role. He's one of the older guys, so he's kind of quickly become a leader of this team, which says a lot about him as a person. And then Manny Bates he's been a revelation of sorts. 6'11" center. He's like the fourth all-time leading shot blocker at NC State, and he only played there for 2 whole seasons. So that just kind of says the prowess that he has defensively. And obviously with UConn's big, Manny Bates is going to be a kind of
guy.
That's going to be that's going to be a key matchup to watch. But I don't, like I said, so I don't really know what I expected, but I will say they've kind of exceeded my expectations. I know that sounds a little weird, but just kind of they've played at a higher pace than they did last year under LaVall Jordan. They're shooting it a little bit better. They're just kind of they're a well-oiled machine for a team that's learning a new system. And Chuck Harris was their leading scorer each of the last 2 years, but sophomore Jaden Taylor has kind of assumed that role. Granted, anyone can lead them in scoring on any given night, but lately it's been Jaden Taylor, a sophomore guard who's playing with a lot of confidence and is a really talented shooter. And Chuck Harris is still a really deadly driver to the basket as well.
If you're looking at this Butler team on tape here, what would you say has been the biggest strength of this team so far through this season?
I would say it's two. I'd say it's their ability to play inside out through Manny Bates. Manny Bates is a really good passer. So, if you play him one-on-one, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But if you send a double team, he's able to pass out of that as well. And, his guards can create and they can knock down spot up 3-point shots as well. So their ability to play inside out, and I would say the guards' ability to penetrate, like I said, Jaden Taylor, Chuck Harris, and even Eric Hunter Jr., they can all get to the basket. They're really talented at attacking the basket and kind of making teams pay and scoring points in the paint. And they can all create as well. And Simas Lukosius is kind of a guard forward hybrid. He can handle the ball as well. he can really set up and play make as well, and he can also attack the basket and shoot. So I mean, their starters all contribute a lot, and like I said, they're kind of all versatile. And but I would say attacking the basket and playing inside out is probably the main strengths with this team right now.
All right, I don't know what it is about Seamus Lukosius, but ever since I saw him last year, he's probably been one of my favorite opposing Big East players to watch. He's just a fun player out there to see what he could do.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, and yeah, just the size and just the way he plays the game and the pass. He had Coach Mata said he had the best pass he ever seen against Cal. He went between his legs to a trailing Manny Bates for a dunk. He said Mata said that was the best pass he'd ever seen. So that's high praise.
For sure. When you look at the losses that they've had, whether it was at Tennessee or NC State there, Penn State, what have been some of the things that have led to those losses that, maybe if UConn's thinking, oh, here are some things we can exploit that these teams did?
Well, it's so weird because when they went to the Bahamas, those a couple of those games took
Yeah.
place during the Battle for Atlantis tournament, and I mean Butler was playing with 7, 8 guys, so just they rely on their starters so much, but that can lead to fatigue and that can lead
Yeah.
to like scoring runs. So I mean, like I said, they're getting healthier, but I would say just kind of scoring droughts is what's plagued Butler, at times, and they can get down quickly, and and teams can start to pile it on a little bit, and they'll never say that it's because they're tired or that they're playing shorthanded, but it's a fact that it's tough to rely on your starters that much and to put that much kind of pressure and just emphasis on them. So I would say that the just defensive lapse and scoring lapses has been kind of their weaknesses so far.
I think that's going to be really interesting to watch in this game where UConn can go, 9+ deep here against a team that, starters might be going on, fumes later on in that second half. That could be the difference there. And it's going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch there. As you mentioned, it's the first year for Thad Matta here in his second stint at Butler. What have been some of the biggest differences from, maybe what you've seen out of Butler these past couple of years and what they've looked like so far under Coach Matta there?
Yeah, so I will say that this is my first year covering the team. I actually covered Purdue last year. So from an outside perspective looking in, I mean, I've had a chance to cover some Butler games under
Yeah.
LaVall Jordan, but I will say that it's the pace that they're playing with. They want to play an exciting brand of basketball, whereas last year they were in terms of just ratings, one of the slower teams in pace under Jordan. So that's kind of been the biggest shift. I mean, it's definitely an exciting brand of basketball, and I don't know if it's because of you had an Eric Hunter Jr. and a Manny Bates. You're going to improve a little bit and kind of you can play at a higher pace. But I would say that's kind of been the biggest difference, and even the coaching staff. That's Greg Oden's on the coaching staff, and John Diebler. Two Ohio State greats are on the coaching staff. And just kind of watching Greg interact with some of the bigs, and that's a great resource to have there as well. So I mean, I just say that it's just a great staff, and even Maurice Joseph and
Yeah.
Coach Mike McGee's just a lot of talented guys, a lot of basketball knowledge on that staff. So it's just seems to be a really good culture that they're building right now. So maybe that could be one of the biggest differences. I'm not saying the culture was bad, but just from being around the guys, the culture seems to be really great.
Yeah, shout out to Mojo there as even though I host and run this Connecticut podcast, I'm a GW alum and had some overlap there with Coach Joseph there. So always a big fan of his and excited to see him over at Butler. As we're looking at this roster, is there a guy or two that you think could really give this UConn team some trouble?
Oof, that's a good question. I don't know because this is such a unique matchup because you guys have two great bigs, and obviously Manny Bates is really good, but it's going to be tough. You guys can kind of mismatch your bigs there, but maybe Chuck Harris. He's kind of a 6'2" guard. He's like I said, he's really great at kind of attacking the basket, and if he can get going and kind of get his confidence up, can be streaky as well, and he can also shoot from three. So. I would say containing Chuck Harris would kind of be what they would want to do, and if he can get going, that can really kind of dictate how the game is going to go for Butler.
Defensively, how could you see Butler, trying to throw some wrenches here at UConn to slow them down a little bit on the offensive side?
Yeah, I mean that's something we talked to Coach Mata about, and I mean in terms of defending the post, he said it's going to take all five guys. That I don't know if they necessarily want to put Manny Bates in too many one-on-one situations because they also can't afford to get him into foul trouble because they don't really have a lot of bigs behind him. So it's going to take a team effort on defense, and it's interesting to see how they match up because Butler plays about four guards, depending on how you classify the coaches. So, if when UConn can get it going inside, how can they react and kind of again clamp down on the perimeter? And obviously, you guys have great shooters as well. So, and we asked again, Coach Matta, how you stop UConn's guards, and he's like, "Well, if I knew that, then I'd be a genius." So I guess it's just going to be team defense is kind of going to be the emphasis there, and kind of not allowing those ISO situations, and basically just everyone playing together and communicating. I know it's cliche, but that's really the only hope they have, kind of.
I've got to ask, since you mentioned you were on the Purdue beat previously. Now, looking at things from a national picture, UConn fans are comparing themselves to that Purdue team a lot. Just based on what you've seen from the outside this year, how do you see these teams kind of ranking up against each other?
Yeah, I mean that's because the bigs there, with the Zach Edey, and they had Travion Williams last year, is kind of what the Sinogo and
Yeah,
Cleveland kind of. I do see a parallel there, and then it's crazy. I don't know if you guys have a lottery pick in Jaden Ivey. That's kind of the X factor that Purdue had last year, but it's crazy to see them playing better without Ivey and relying on two freshmen. So that Purdue season was a very unique one, and it's crazy to see. I would never guess that they'd be playing better without Ivy. So
yeah.
Matt Painter just has the guys playing well, and obviously Coach Hurley is really making an impact with you guys as well.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting, and I know everyone would love to see like a Sinogo Edey, Klingon Edey go head to head in a game at some point. I'll wrap with this one. I know Hinkle is just one of those really special places to see game, and obviously UConn's opening up conference play on the road, which is always a tough ask as well. You expecting it to be pretty rowdy and crazy environment in Hinkle on Saturday night?
Yes, that's kind of what the guys are. We're asked about today. I mean, the crowd has been good. Coach Mata has talked about the crowds weren't like this when I was here the first time. 20 something years ago, and for them to be playing as well as they are, I would imagine there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement around the program. And yeah, when Hinkle's rocking, you have the light shining through the window, and granted it's
Yeah.
going to be a night game, but it's just a very unique atmosphere, and just a great place to watch a ball game. And yeah, with UConn coming into town, I think it's going to be great. I'm excited to see.
Awesome. Well, Akeem, I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us a little preview of this Butler game. I know everyone's looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, anytime.